This DV8 Off-Road FS-18 hammer forged front bumper is for those of you that have a 2007 to 2018 JK that are looking for an aftermarket front bumper that's going to add a lot of features, some protection, and also some additional style to the front of your Jeep. This is going to be a pretty easy installation. However, I am going to go with a 2 out of 3 wrenches on this, which isn't normal for a front bumper. This one has some lights and some other electronics that will require some wiring up. So again, going to go with 2 out of 3 wrenches for that reason, but we'll talk more about the install in just a second. So as I mentioned, there are a couple big reasons that you'll want to swap out your bumper with an aftermarket one, those being style, protection, and features. And this is going to have a lot of all of those. However, this bumper is also going to be a little bit more expensive than some of the other choices out there. This bumper is going to come in at right around that $520 mark, and part of the reason is some of the electronics that are included in this bumper that aren't included in a lot of other aftermarket choices. As for construction, this is going to be built out of 3/16 inch steel. It does have some 1/4 inch thick stuff on it as well, where you need a little bit of additional strength, and it is covered in a black textured powder coat finish, as with most of the other aftermarket bumpers that you're going to find. As you can see right off the bat, this is a pretty wide bumper. This is a full width bumper. You can go mid width, you can go stubby, or you can go with something like this. This is pretty much going to cover the entire space of that factory front bumper, but of course going to add all those features and some additional protection. So this is going to give you end-to-end coverage. Now let's talk about some of those features that I've already mentioned a couple of times. So the first one is going to be right here. These are going to be some D-ring mounts, and this does come with the D-rings, which is a nice feature. So that's going to be great for additional recoveries. They're going to be really strong, welded right through. They're very close to where the bumper attaches onto the frame. So that's going to give you a ton of strength for those recovery points. Right in the center here, you do have a winch mount and a fair lead mount as well. So in the vein of recovery, you're gonna have a spot to be able to mount a winch right on your bumper. No need to purchase any additional hardware. Just bolt the winch right up and go. Directly below the winch, you're going to have a spot for a 20-inch LED light bar. Now that's going to be optional for you. You don't have to put that in. Otherwise, you just have that opening in the bumper, but it is set up for one. All ready to go. DV8 does offer a 20-inch LED light bar that will bolt right in there. So that's one of those really nice features that not a lot of other bumpers have. Now, even with the lighting in the center, this also has spots for your factory fog lights. So as long as you have a factory plastic front bumper, you can take those fog lights right out of there and bolt them into this bumper. Again, a feature I really like. Up top here, you have a little bit of a hoop. That's really going to be more for styling than anything else, but you also do have 2 light mount tabs on the top here. That is going to give you the ability to mount a couple of additional lights. Any single post light you can pop up on those mounts. Now, the thing that really makes this bumper different from a lot of the other ones out there is over on the corners. So this is going to have a spot, and it does include 2 small LED marker lights. So these are going to be 2-wire lights. You can really wire them up however you want. You could wire them as marker lights so they're constantly on, or wire them as a turn signal if you choose to. It's really up to you. These are included, again, a 2-wire light, so it does require a little wiring to get set up. The other thing that this includes just on the passenger side of the Jeep is this. This is a marine grade 12-volt outlet. So this is a regular outlet if you're somebody who does a lot of camping with your Jeep. Maybe you do a lot of tailgating, you want to have a 12-volt outlet for charging a Bluetooth speaker, your phone, whatever it might be on the outside of your vehicle. This is going to allow you to do that. Again, it's pre-drilled, it does come with this. This just has 2 posts on the back of it, so again, you will have to do some wiring to get this set up. I mentioned earlier that this bumper is going to be a little bit pricier than some of the other choices out there that are similar, because this does have some additional features and some additional electronics. All of those are going to add to the cost. If you really like the fact that this has those turn signals or marker lights, depending on how you wire them up, built right into the bumper, and the fact that it has a 12-volt outlet built right into the bumper, and you're going to take advantage of those, then spending a little bit more for this bumper is absolutely worth it. If you're not interested in those features, then I'd probably steer you in the direction of some other full-width front bumpers that are going to have similar features without the electronics, and they'll save you a couple of dollars. And now we'll have a member of the install team show you how you get this bolted up.
Tools required for this installation are going to be a 7mm wrench, various extensions. A universal swivel socket is very helpful, 19, 5/8, 13, and a 10mm socket, a 3/8 drive, Phillips head screwdriver, wire strippers and crimpers. Optional is going to be this nut driver and impact. All right, so the first step into removing your Jeep JK front bumper is to disconnect your fog lights. It is a simple connection just like this, and there's one right in back of each of the fog lights. Go ahead and do that first. Then you're going to take an 18mm socket and get this top nut off first. There is a little canister in the way, so you won't be able to get an extension in there. The best way to do this is just by hand. me get this nut out of here, and then we can get the rest with an impact and this universal swivel. All right, so we're gonna take our 18mm socket and remove the rest of these 7 nuts remaining on this bumper. There's gonna be 2 on each side of the frame rail on both sides. There it is. All right, repeat that on the other side. All right, now we're gonna remove the last 2 nuts. I'm not gonna remove this last nut completely. I'm just gonna leave a couple threads on there. As you can see, that bumper wants to move a little bit. So now I'm going to remove that last nut. And then in one motion, we're gonna pull straight back on these tow hooks and the bumper will come with it. All right, now before we get our DV8 bumper onto our Jeep, we are going to put our turn signals or marker lights, whatever you want to choose, into our bumper. So to install your side marker lights on this DV8 bumper, we're going to first run our wires through this little hole. Take the supplied hardware. This is going to be a Phillips head machine screw. Put that through the bolt hole there. Then we're going to add a flat and then locking washer on top of that, and this really small 7mm nut. Tighten that up. 7mm wrench on the back and the Phillips head on the front. Next, we're going to bring in our 12-volt plug. That's going to be on the passenger side. Again, we're going to be using that Phillips head hardware, a flat washer, lock washer, and nut. Then we can bring our plug into place and put this little plastic locking nut on the back side and tighten that down. All right, now we're gonna put our last marker light on the driver's side here. All right, so you can see that I have my bumper right in front of the Jeep. If you're not good with heavy things, I suggest that you get a buddy to help you out with. We're gonna grab this, bring it into place. And then we're gonna put a flat washer, lock washer, and then that nut. So I'm only gonna put a couple on right now just to keep the bumper in place. Then I'll get underneath and tighten things up. All right, so we're gonna put, again, our flat washer first, followed by our lock washer and nut. And for the inside portion of the frame rail here, you'll see that there's only one stud. And then the hole on top of it is actually threaded for a bolt. So it's gonna be the same orientation, bolt head, lock washer, flat washer. Go ahead and start this one. Then I'm going to put the other one on the other side. All right, next up, we're going to add the hardware to the outside of our frame rails. Again, flat washer, lock washer, and then your nut. We're going to do this on both sides. All right, now we're gonna bring up a 5/8 socket on a universal swivel. And at the end is my impact, and we're just going to tighten these up. You're gonna do this all around. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and tighten up the hardware on the inside of our frame rails. All right, so our next step is to add this little under bumper skid plate, and you'll see that there are 3 little riv nuts already added. So we can just put our hardware right through. Again, I have a lock washer and flat washer on here. So I'm just gonna get this lined up and start my hardware. All right, so I got a little nut driver to help me start these bolts into the bumper, just so I can get some turns on there. It's a little tight. Let's get our last center bolt through. And I'm gonna finish these off with my impact. All right, now it's time to wire up our marker light on the side of our bumper here. Now it's just a simple power and negative wire. You can wire it up to your marker light here, or you can wire it up to your turn signal right here. And as you can see, ours has already been modified with some Spade connectors there. So all we have to do is add Spade connectors here, and we'll have that power and signal to our turn signal. So what I'm going to do first is strip back this wire just to expose a little bit more of that wire. Then I'll add my male end to the Spade connector, crimp that down. Go ahead and get the positive side on as well. All right, once we have our Spade connectors on, we are going to connect them up to the wires coming into our turn signal harness. This blue one right here is going to be our ground, and we'll hook it up to our white wire coming out of our turn signal in our DV8 bumper. And then this black is going to be our power, and going to this yellow one right here. Before I tidy everything up down here with some zip ties and some electrical tape, I'll go in there, hit my 4-ways, and make sure this light is working. All right, it's working just fine. All right, as I said earlier, what we're gonna do is just add some black electrical tape just to tidy this up and make sure we keep it out of the way of the tires or any flinging debris. All right, everything that you saw on this side, you're gonna wanna repeat on the driver's side to get that done. And I'm gonna add a couple of these Spade connectors up here as well, just to ensure that they don't become detached. All right, so what I have here is a plug-in fuse. We're gonna be utilizing this for our 12-volt outlet here on the end of our bumper. Now, this did not come with a kit, but you can easily pick one of these up off of an online retail store or at a local auto parts. And at the other end, we have that Spade connector. So we have the female end here, and then on the back of our plug here, you'll have 2 prongs, one negative and one positive. We're gonna go ahead and hook up the positive first. And then followed up by a negative wire. And on the end of here, I just have an eye, and then I'm going to go into the engine compartment and find an existing ground and just add that to it. So let's go ahead and make sure our outlet is nice and tight first. Here we go. Let me get a couple more clicks on. And then we're gonna plug in our negative side to the prong. There. All right, now what we're gonna do next is run our power and ground wire. There is one awesome spot in the Jeep JK right between our front quarter panel and our grille. So we're gonna slip our light right through the gap here. And you can see my fuse about to pop through. All right, now I'm just gonna lay this right near my fuse box and then get my ground through there as well. All right, and there's my ground wire. All right, what we're gonna do next is ground our outlet out. I found a nice little bolt right here that we can utilize. And just run that right down there. Make sure that's nice and tight. All right, next we're going to remove our fuse panel lid right here. So you can look under the top of your panel here, your fuse lid, and you can find your empty fuse slots. Now we actually have a couple right here and then a few up here. So we are going to plug it in right here. Make sure our wire can get out of there. Put it right there. And then replace our lid. And of course, test out that outlet. So as you can see, we have power available to our ARB fridge freezer through our 12-volt on our bumper, which is pretty cool. And I just wanted to say that I added that fuse to a keyed power source in that fuse box. So what that means is when that key is in the off position, there is going to be no power available at this plug. So you won't wake up in the morning and find some guy plugged into your bumper charging his phone or any other device. All right, that's gonna wrap up my install of the DV8 FS-18 hammer forged front bumper for your Wrangler. And for all things Jeep, keep it here at ExtremeTerrain.com.